Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello, friends. Hello, birders. We are Life List, a birding podcast. I am George Armistead. I am here with both my co-hosts, Molly Brown and Oliver Jaramillo. Guys, how you doing today?
Doing great today.
Yeah, hi. I noticed you changed the intro.
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
I like to keep myself guessing and other people guessing as well.
Yeah.
So I try to mix
you
it
had
up a
me
little
guessing.
bit. Yeah, did I? Yeah. That's kind of what I was going for. Keep you on your toes over there.
Yeah, who knows what's going to be next week?
Yeah, you never know. You just don't know. Yeah. Guys, I almost didn't make it here today. It was a close call.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was a close.
What happened?
There's a lot of birds moving outside today. A lot of birds. Hawks are moving big time. But,
oh, yeah.
Yes, but I knew that there was somebody else coming to join us today who also is an avid hawk watcher. And she, if she was going to be here, I had to be here. She's also happens to be one of my favorite people in the world and is a very close friend of each of us here at the show. She is an avid birder, writer, public speaker, certified nature and forest therapy guide, a longtime volunteer at Hawk Mountain, and as I mentioned, die-hard hawk watcher, serious about the hawks. One of the longest tenured statewide eBird reviewers. I think she's pushing 20 years maybe as an eBird reviewer. Got to be getting close, 15 anyway. And she is the director of the American Birding Association's Teen Camp Delaware Bay and co-founded Frontiers in Ornithology Symposium for Youth and recently co-authored Ornithotherapy for Your Mind, Body, and Soul, and also is the founder of the Mindful Birding Network and co-host of the Mindful Birding Network podcast. Holly Merker, how are you doing today?
Hey there, George. I am doing great, and it's so much fun to be here with you and Molly and Alvaro. And when I was looking at the calendar and I saw this date and I looked at today's weather, we've got some north winds here in southeastern PA. I was like, ooh,
could be tough.
This is going to be tough.
Yep. Wouldn't you know it?
Yeah, absolutely. But to be amongst your company today, it's all worth missing a couple hundred broad-wing hawks going over. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all, and feelings are mutual. All of the things that you said about me, I respect and admire all three of you so much for all you've contributed to ornithology and birding and making it more welcoming and inclusive to people of all ages. So kudos to you all.
Well, we are super, super glad to have you here, Holly. We've been talking about this for, I feel like, a while. I know I think we scheduled one like a year ago or something, and somebody's schedule or all of our schedules all fell apart. I can't remember. But yeah, great to finally have you here, especially knowing that your beloved broadwing hawks are on the move. New record today, Holly, of 2,000 plus. I know have been seen over, Liam Hart has had over there in Germantown. So big numbers. Hopefully some of the other hawk watches around are getting big push of them as well.
Yeah, I've heard that up in Connecticut and New York State, they're having some pretty good numbers today. A friend of mine's up there on one of the hills. He's Quaker Ridge, and he messaged me and gave me the lowdown. So perhaps those birds are on the way.
Yeah. Do you know, does Hawk Mountain get like really big broadwing flights compared to some of the other regional hawk watches?
Well, they can. So broadwing hawks are different beasts when it comes to migration, and they're just following those thermals. So Hawk Mountain definitely benefits from good pushes of broadwings when there are thermals and updrafts off those mountainsides. And sometimes I think the Piedmont of Pennsylvania actually gets more birds or is more likely just because of the thermal activity available on the lowlands there, the Piedmont. So it depends. But yeah, Hawk Mountain is great at all times for all species and not just hawks, passerine migration, the visible migration early in the morning. Not many people go up there for that, but I've seen some pretty spectacular movements of warblers and other songbirds at this time of year. So anyone out there who's listening who hasn't been to Hawk Mountain Sanctuary should check it out and put it on a list of things to do and places to go. It has a fantastic legacy of conservation. It's a great place to spend some time.
Yes, great history there with Rosalie Edge's work. And amazing place in that North Lookout is birding. If you got to spend a day birding someplace, that spot is as good a place as any in the country. Awfully pretty spot. What else, Holly, have you been up to lately? It is, as we've noted, a good time for hawks. What else have you found yourself up to of late this autumn?
Well, I've been busy guiding some tours. I just came back from National Audubon's Hog Island camp in Maine, where I worked with Scott Weidensaul and Seth Benz, guiding adults. We went out to Monhegan Island. This was right before the hurricane hit coastal Maine. So we were really excited about the opportunities for birds, and it was a good showing of migration for us. But keeping really busy right now. Actually, I've been planning the Frontiers in Ornithology Symposium with Molly. So that's definitely keeping both of us and our team on our toes right now, as we're really super excited to bring back the Frontiers in Ornithology Symposium. I want to thank you all for being so supportive of the symposium.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I mean, it's been a couple of years now, right? Since COVID kind of got in the way of literally everything. This will be the first one in a couple of years. So I'm excited. I can't wait to be there.
So for those who are not really, in the know, what is the Frontiers of Ornithology Symposium? And can anybody join in or what?
Yeah, I can take this one. So I help with it too, and I came on a little bit later for the first symposium, so I wasn't there for the initial concept that was famously written on a napkin at a bar, I believe, at a birding event.
Yeah, that birding expo in Philly. Three of us got together in a bar and kind of hatched this plan.
Right, yeah. Yeah, but it is all about pursuing a career or professional development in anything related to ornithology, conservation science, very much a bird focus. So it's a one-day event. It is a big suite of speakers that come through. We have 16, 18 speakers. We've got a couple youth keynotes, and then a lot of folks who are at different stages in their careers and different aspects of ornithology. A lot that are talking about technologies that are used, about how they got to where they are in their careers, those kinds of things. We have just a whole series of these talks that go on. I mean, it's a true symposium style for the day. It's based in Delaware, and it's for youth, pretty much high school and college age. I think it's kind of 13 to 22, and that's our focus. So I think that the idea just came about because it's something that wasn't available in an event format or a symposium format to youth who are interested in careers in ornithology. And that's the event in a nutshell.
And do you have to attend live, or can it be attended like through Zoom or something if you're like in the other side of the country?
Yeah, so it's a live event, and that's how the attendees go. We record the presentations that are there so that you can watch them after. For the first one, we did not offer it to anyone who didn't actually attend the event, so you had to register to come to do it. So as of now, that's where we are. We have all sorts of ideas for where the symposium can go, and the organization that basically surrounding it called Frontiers in Ornithology. So there's a lot of potential for the event to move and for there to be different types of symposiums and workshops and those sorts of things down the road. Lots of big ideas, and a couple of us working really hard to make them happen.
Yeah, the last symposium we held was in 2019, and we sold that event out at just under 200 people attending. And we had young people attending from 14 different states. And it was quite an incredible experience for those attending, not just the young people, but also all of us who were putting it together and a lot of the speakers. It offers a lot of opportunity for kids or students who are interested in birds, and they don't know how to take it to the next level. They want to know, like, what can I do to make a difference? And we showcase these speakers who have made a career of bird research or bird technology or ways in which to impact conservation. It's not all about science and technology either, because the last event we had Catherine Hamilton, who is a phenomenal bird artist, come in and speak about how she uses her art in order to benefit conservation. So it's the idea of taking whatever talent you have and pursuing something towards bird conservation. And so for us, it was incredibly rewarding. We're really excited to be bringing it back. We worked hard to try to figure out and be creative of how to launch this event these last couple of years through the pandemic. We had 2020 all set to go. And of course, you know what happened in March 2020. So we canceled it. And yeah, we could bring it to people through a virtual platform, but part of what makes it so special is the ability for young people to network among not only each other, but also the speakers that attend. And so we decided just to hold off until we felt better about where everybody was with large group gatherings. And so we're just super thrilled to finally be able to pull it together this year. Things are looking great. This is, like Molly said, it's held in Northern Delaware, so it's very easy access to I-95 in the greater Wilmington area called Hockessin at Ashland Nature Center, which has an active hawk watch going on. Yes. And also bird banding. And yeah, it's a really great location. So we're super thrilled. And yeah, if you know any young people out there, or if you're somebody that's a student, check us out. We'd love to have you join us.
Do you guys still have spots for this coming year?
As of this recording, we do.
Mm-hmm.
We fully expect it to sell out. It did last year.
I was going to say, I was expecting it was probably either sold out or close to it. Usually that's what you'd expect for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting close. We've got every day it seems like we're getting more and more signups, as school season has just started and more educators are learning. Because we have college professors that bring in little busloads of students to attend, which is pretty cool. There's so much value to this, but it's just a great way to contribute towards the future. And young people with an interest in birds are that future.
Yeah, and I mentioned youngsters too, which is a word I love to say now because I feel like I've achieved an age where you can say that. But part of the reason I said that specifically is because I know that in the past, you guys, the organizers of this event, have run into some issues where the adults are like, but we want to come, like it's such a cool idea. You're hearing from so many interesting and important voices in ornithology that I think people see the lineup and they're like, I want to go, So it is important that folks realize it is for young adults that are trying to map a path towards a profession in ornithology or conservation. Yeah, and you guys do have quite a lineup of speakers and sort of special guests this year, yeah?
We sure do. We're really excited about that lineup.
Yeah, a handful have been on the podcast before. I'll link those episodes that have some of our speakers that will be there too.
Nice. Yeah, there's I see Trish Miller and Katie Fallon, and would love to get Matt Young on here sometime. That would be fascinating from the Finch expert. It would be really fascinating.
Finch guy.
Yeah, Mr. Finch. Yeah. Be fun to get him on here. He would have a lot to say. He could answer a lot of questions for us. But yeah, you guys have a really great team. Should be a good time, and hopefully some birds around to boot between sessions for the folks to look at.
Do you have any also more lab-based biologists talking, or is it mostly field-based ornithology that you guys sort of are more interested in getting the youngsters looking at?
Yeah. Well, we do have some people who are working in labs. For example, Dr. Jason Weckstein, who runs the Weckstein Lab of Ornithology at Drexel University, the Academy of Natural Sciences.
J-Wex, as I like to call him.
J-Wex,
yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah. And he is a great teacher. He is also an avid birder, in addition to being a phenomenal ornithologist. But he's an example of somebody who is working in more of a lab setting, doing hardcore research.
The speakers are submitting their topics right now too. And another thing about the symposium, they're not just presenting on their profession or the projects that they're working on, but also how they got to that point in their careers, advice on sort of the how and how it comes together for them, and not just the content of what they're working on as well. So for a lot of these folks, it's a little bit different than what you might normally see them presenting on at other places, because it's a little bit of a behind the scenes look of their progress and the steps that they took to get to that point too. So it's a little bit of a different type of presentation in some of these cases for what folks are talking about on that day.
Yeah, our keynote is a pretty impressive and phenomenal woman called Dr. Viviana Ruiz Gutierrez, and she is the co-director for the Center for Avian Population Studies at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, among other titles that she holds. But we're super excited to have her speaking to our audience, and I've heard so many amazing things about her. And her ability to interact and engage with people of all ages. So I can't wait to meet her.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Yeah.
While we were talking, a spotted towhee landed in my backyard. Ooh. Only like the third time I've seen one in my yard.
Man.
And it hasn't come out, but like I just eyeballed it and it had big white spots. Like it might not be our locals. So stay tuned. It could pop out.
We still at some point got to do our pod while birding, our eBirding while we pod. I think we got to make that happen at some point.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, we make a cumulative list.
Yeah.
You know what we could do though? We could do a life list, eBird list.
Yeah.
That that we can keep on use it.
Could really get
anytime we're
interviews.
Podcasting. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. It did. It just did. I just ruined the entire conversation by being a birder, going, "Hey, hold on a second, everybody."
Luckily, we're all used to that here. It's like, oh yeah,
I know.
Yeah. Momentary lapse.
Regular civilians. You're talking to them like at a party outdoors, and you're always looking elsewhere, and they're like, "What do you see?" And I'm like, "Oh, you have to explain."
I don't trust that guy.
Person, so
he never looks me right in the eye. Yeah.
Never looks. Yeah, it's like. Yeah, you're interesting, but not nearly as interesting as the broad-winged hawks going over here right now.
Somebody I was talking to was saying how like at hawk watches, they're super social, but you're all facing the same direction. So like, pretty much everybody's kind of like, facing the hawk flight. And so you can be talking with somebody all day and hardly ever actually looking at them, and then see them a week later and not really recognize them,
Well, it's like looking at sports, right?
Yeah.
Just all looking at the same screen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, it has not come out yet.
Yeah. All in due course. Well, Holly, what happened this last week up at camp when you were up in Maine? What I know you guys got out of there just before the storm. Was there some migrants around? Maybe you want to tell folks about what you do at Hog Island and what you were up to this last week and what you've got. I know you've got several more camps coming up. You do at least 3 or 4 annually up at Hog Island.
Yeah. So I feel very lucky to have the opportunity to work with the staff on Hog Island. So this is uh, an organization that's owned by National Audubon, and it's called Hog Island Audubon Camp. It's a small island that is really not that far off the mainland of Midcoast Maine, and so this last session, and I do about 3 sessions a year typically. I help with a spring migration in Monhegan session. And then there's the Joy of Birding session, which I'm the director. And then this last session I just did was Migration in Monhegan, Living on the Wind. And that's based off of Scott Weidensaul's, one of his wonderful books. And so this is an adult birding camp where people come onto the island for 5 nights. And it's a little bit more instructional. Typically, we have evening sessions where we're giving presentations. We might do a little bit more instructional learning than a typical traditional birding tour, but we take people around and show them birds in the mid-coast area. This particular session, we went out to Monhegan Island. We take a ferry out and back, and we stayed overnight. And so that was really a superb experience as always. So Monhegan Island is about 11 miles offshore from the mid-coast Maine. And
famous birding spot too. Right? Like along with Hog Island, I feel like both these places are like, rich, steeped in birding history.
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, Monhegan itself is such a great migrant trap. So if the winds are blowing in the right direction, it can have pretty substantial fallouts of particularly passerines. And you never know what you're going to get with birding and how the winds are going to fare for you. But we thought that we were not going to see a good showing of migration because there hadn't been a lot of birds on the island. I was messaging back and forth with Eric Hines, who was running a tour for field guides, and we actually caught up with Eric, which was really wonderful.
Nice.
While on the island. Yeah, I was super excited
I'm on
to see him.
a Wordle text chain with Eric, so that's mostly how we keep up these days. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's an amazing, naturalist and guide. And so anyway, we didn't expect much, but actually it turned out that there were some birds that came in almost probably seemingly when we did that morning. And so we got to have a really great experience with watching and observing some migrant warblers in particular. It was weird. We didn't have a whole lot of vireos, and there were hardly any flycatchers on the island. And you never know what you're going to get there. And that's what's really fun about it. And this is an island that doesn't have paved roads. It's all dirt roads. And around the island, you'll see birders and you'll see painters and artists. And that's what's really, it kind of has this charm. There's really very few places like it in North America, I think. So if you have an opportunity to ever get there, I would recommend it.
It's got a brewery as well, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, we always make time for that brewery.
I believe that story. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's pretty fantastic, the beer there. And it's not just because it's the only brewery on the island. It actually is really good beer. And they serve a few other things in addition to the beer. But anyway, it's just a really enjoyable place to go. And it was a great experience. And we also, with focusing on migration last week, spent some time looking at hawks in flight and went to a hawk watch called Clary Hill, which is Blueberry Barrens, a little bit further northwest of Hog Island. So, we did fun things like that. So it's just been a really good past couple of weeks. And so glad to hear that not a lot of damage up there from the hurricane. A couple people along the mid-coast had power outages, which to be expected, but nothing traumatic or not any significant damage. So that's always good to hear.
Yeah.
Hey, did you all see that, speaking of raptors in the North Country and so forth, that there was an article written about the economic impact of the single stellar sea eagle? Did you see all that? And estimated could be as high as like, it was like was it $500,000 worth of hotel, gas, snacks,
Was
And
this?
I
Are you
assume Kleenex if you didn't see it, just for the crying, but
I was going to say, is this some do-gooderism by you, Al? Did you transport this Stellar Sea Eagle to the region just for everyone's benefit? Yeah.
That's right. Just to get some more economic. I tried Texas first, and that didn't work, and so then I moved it over to the Northeast. And
it is wild to think about what some of these birds, how they impact these areas. That one, man, hard to believe there's anything that has been more impactful in terms of single bird to a region.
Yeah, and you do wonder. I mean, we probably don't pay enough attention to the impact that just birding really good places that people consistently go to every year, how that affects the economies of those areas, right? Like the islands you're talking about. I mean, I'm sure a lot of beer gets consumed during a good migration day.
And a bad migration day.
And a bad migration, even
bad migrations day.
Bad. Lots more beer, and then again, Kleenex for crying.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see the birds.
Either way, Kleenex is making out. Either they people see them and they get so excited they're in tears, or they don't see them and not so good.
Right. We should talk to the Kleenex company to see if they want to sponsor birding podcasts. Because we do a lot of crying over birds we missed.
It's true. Yeah. Right. Told you about my spruce grouse. Yeah.
But it's really, interesting. Those places you guys are mentioning are really iconic places I've never been to in my whole life.
I've never been to Monhegan. It is very, very,
it's crazy.
Very high on my list. Yes.
It'd be sort of almost like a, tourists that go to like Graceland.
Yeah, exactly. Or, sort of like a Mecca.
Dollyville or whatever it's called. We should do like the birding iconic spots. I've never been to Hawk Mountain. Right.
Oh,
you're kidding.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I've been to Cape May twice.
Yeah.
I think
he's a vagrant out this way.
No. I mean, places like Point Pelee. Okay, I've been there a lot.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I mean, I've never been to the Ohio. During the big migration in spring. I've never been down there.
I've never done that.
So it's like all these places that are famous.
Yeah.
And instead, we sit here at the computer, talking about them,
clickety clacking on our keyboards. Yeah,
yeah. But it'd be really cool. I think Hawk Mountain is one of the ones that I probably would just want to go see for the. I've always imagined what it must be like, and the whole deal. And you saw those old pictures of the old dudes, back in the 30s or whatever, with hunting raptors, and then eventually the conservation movement. It's like it seems really vital to sort of see it, even on a non-migration day, as a historical kind of place.
It is,
but never been there.
Well, that just needs to change. Those winds just need to blow you east, Alvaro.
Good place for timber rattlers as well. If you want to see timber rattlers, pretty good place. See them. You go the right time of year. You got to go early in the season, But yeah,
that's what George always says. He's you mentioned timber rattlers more than any other critter.
I love timber rattlers
since I've known you.
Yeah,
and you tried to show me some, and we didn't see them. It was like, and you were kind of half scared to find them, half excited. Exactly. It was one of those like, and it's like, hey, let's flip this board. You're like, whoa, careful. I remember.
This is. I wish that I could deny this or say that this was inaccurate, but I'm like terrified and thrilled all at once by those things. Yeah, they're so cool. That was the one actually that Ben Franklin said. He didn't say the turkey like everybody said. Ben Franklin said that he thought the timber rattler would be a good symbol for this country. But
really, huh?
Yeah, he knew a thing or two about a thing or two. That Ben Franklin. Oh. Yeah. Well, Holly, when it comes to hawk watching, I'm curious, I've never asked you this before, actually. Like, how did your interest in hawk watching evolve? And do you have like one particular day you look back on in your hawk watching career as like, man, that was really like, I've seen a lot of great days, but this is this was a day that really stood out as really remarkable. And are you are you early season preference hawk watching, late season? Where do you land on that? I know there's sort of a divide.
Yeah, well, these are all great questions. So I'll have to say about like what started it all with hawk watching for me, and I think it was a visit to Hawk Mountain as a kid. Where I grew up in Maryland, and we took a day trip up to the sanctuary. And I just remember being amazed by what I was seeing. I don't remember any of the birds I saw, unfortunately. I just remember being up there. And then when I was in college, and I went to college in the Philly burbs, taking multiple trips up there, and just falling in love with this style of birding. Really, that's what it is about for me. I really love sitting in one spot and letting the show happen.
Yeah.
It's sitting and just waiting. I just feel like even if nothing happens, that is okay. And I have to say that, as a hawk watcher, you have to put in a lot of hawk watching dues, pay a lot of hawk watching dues, which includes bad weather, rainy weather,
some occasionally slow days. Yeah.
Yeah, some occasional slow days, or completely. I've been up at the lookout at Hawk Mountain when I've been on duty as a counter up there, and completely socked in with fog, so you're not seeing anything at all. But the conversations you have with other people there are so meaningful. And it just really resonates, this word of sanctuary, because it truly is a sanctuary, not just for the birds who are flying over and to be appreciated and honored for their role in the ecosystem and their migratory journeys, but also for a sanctuary for people, to be a place where people can relax, can find respite and rejuvenation through the natural world, and birds especially. And so for me, that's where it all begins. And I still get a thrill just sitting somewhere and just waiting to see, because you never know what's going to fly over next.
Yes.
And so for me, it's all about the quality of the experience versus the quantity. And so that leads me into which part of the hawk watching season, because for us here in Southeastern PA, our hawk watching season begins August 15th, and it runs through December 15th. These are the counting timeframes for Hawk Mountain Sanctuary. And I will say I'm a late season hawk watcher. And that's because, well, first off, there's nothing better to me than a crisp, cool autumn day. The colors are outstanding. I love how the air smells. We're not going to get the thousands of broadwings flying over like we might if we were sitting there today, or sometime during this particular time frame. But there's something really special about being up there in late fall. It just feels like a rhythm of the season of my life that I have to participate in. And so when I am giving my dates for availability for counting, I'll also often tell Laurie Goodrich, or David Barber is the one who's coordinating it now. I like to take the later season. A lot of hawk watchers don't want to be up there when it's super cold. And some of my best moments have been those super cold days when the northwest winds are blowing like 20 to 30 miles an hour, when you are, you're freezing to the core. Oh, that's the other thing. It's a fun strategy to learn how to dress.
Mm-hmm.
And I still challenge myself. How warm can I stay? And how do I keep my feet warm? Because it's sort of like, I know a lot of people who are hunters also are challenged with this. If you're sitting in one spot for many hours, it gets hard for your body to keep warm when it's super cold. And even my camera has had days where the shutter has barely released. But one of these days, back in 2013, I was sitting up on the lookout with David Barber, and it might have been December. And I remember the northwest winds were blowing, and it wasn't a very active day with birds. I had seen a couple golden eagles. Of course, that makes us Eastern hawk watchers get excited.
Mm-hmm.
But all of a sudden, we watched this bird come in. It was just David Barber and I up there. Watched this little white speck come in over the mountain ridges. And as it got closer, it became increasingly clear that this was an adult northern goshawk. And that bird, I mean, I still remember this like it was yesterday, and it's been 10 years about. And so it just put on quite the show. And the power that it held and the way it grabbed the air and just like maneuvered its body as it powered through this tubular bodied bird. See, you hear me talking about it and how excited I get. And it happened so long ago. And hopefully that bird is still alive and faring well. But boy, that's probably one of my most exciting moments of hawk watching. And see, it's all about one bird. It's not even about this day of thousands and thousands of raptors. So
I think I've seen your photo of that bird. Looked like it must have put on a hell of a show. It's like
it went right over our heads. We couldn't believe it. I mean, because we were tracking the bird for a while, and then here it comes. And it's pretty special.
Yeah, down where we're at, it's pretty damn exciting to just see. I mean, I shouldn't say just to see any goshawk sighting, right? Makes a day a great day, right? But like what 95% plus are juveniles. Yeah, like I don't think I have ever seen an adult in the Mid-Atlantic. Maybe once or twice, I can't remember. Most of the ones I've seen have been, on the breeding grounds elsewhere. But around here, really pretty rare to see adults. See one well is even something else. Yeah, practically a mythical bird and about as powerful and scary as a bird can get, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have this theory about what you might call conveyor belt birding, like where you like sit at a place and the hawks go over like a conveyor belt, or you're sitting at a point and all the migratory seabirds are going by, so you're doing a sea watch, or a pelagic trip. The pelagic trip, you're kind of the conveyor, and the birds kind of go past you. But those three things have this really similar aspect to them, that it's all about paying attention and pattern, like, getting to know the pattern of what is normal and what isn't. And the excitement often isn't necessarily a rarity. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's just, wow, we saw that many, or it was some specific thing that happened. And it's really kind of nuanced.
Yeah.
And it's very different than going watching warblers.
It's totally different.
Or going sparrow watching. And a lot of it is about, if you're not focused, you're going to miss the event of the day. And you got to be sitting there. Just, it kind of goes over you and you're like, dun, 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 dun. Oh my God, here's something, and you can't kind of like release the tension of watching. And that, I think, is this really weird version of maybe what other people in other realms would say is living the moment, like right now, kind of paying attention and being intentional in your process. And it's way more fulfilling to me than racing around, oh, let's go to this habitat, let's go to that habitat, and then just sort of sitting and watching, you know what I mean? So it's like a conveyor belt birding. Maybe let's find a better name for it.
I feel like that's not as romantic as it could be, but yeah.
Yeah, right. I know, but
I mean, I call that mindful birding.
There you go.
And it's and sit spots. So sitting in one spot, like hawk watching, this is what I love about it. It's just what you described, Alvaro, of just this keen awareness of being in the right here, right now, and being mindful of that, being intentional in that practice. And this is some of the elements of mindful birding.
Yeah. I mean, literally, when you hear counters and hawk watchers talk about these birds moving, they call them pulses at times, right? Mm-hmm. And I do feel like you feel that, right? Because if you're sitting there all day and all of a sudden there's a little burst of one species that you hadn't seen, all of a sudden you're like, oh, whoa, this is a little different. Like, I've been out here for 5 hours or whatever, and now this is happening, and then all of a sudden that can take off into something, a movement of merlins in late afternoon or something, or, and all of a sudden you can just be like, wow, one after another, here they come, they're going, where are they going? And you feel that.
Yeah, that wonder and the curiosity that brings. That's really exciting. And also, again, dovetails into this idea of a more mindful, intentional practice with a heightened awareness of being in that moment and paying attention.
Do you think, Holly, that having a level of discomfort while you do these things is also part of the thing that makes you like you cannot ignore where you are, right? So you like a pelagic trip where we are. Sometimes the weather's even great, but it's just cold, or you're watching at a coastal spot for things to go by, just sitting there with your scope. And yeah, it's hard to sometimes just stay, warm, or the wind is in your face and your tears are coming down. Once again, the Kleenex is needed. And, that, do you think that's also part of it? Like there's a level of not being too comfortable makes you like really pay attention to what is happening around you.
That's a really good observation, Alvaro. Yeah, I would say that probably does play into it because you are experiencing the elements. You're in that moment with every bit of the condition, whether that be super frigid cold or perhaps it's, rain blowing your face if you're on a boat. And it just, I think, just brings out an appreciation. Like the birds are just that much better. The experiences are just that much better because it's this heightened awareness. It's like a stimulation of your other senses. So we're so keenly aware of our visual sense, right? And even our auditory, but we don't think about while we're birding so much our sense of touch or how our skin feels, perhaps, or how that's impacting our relationship with what we're looking at and how we're feeling about that in the moment. And this, again, I think comes back to this idea of mindful birding, of just, again, being aware of all of your senses and experiencing those, however they might feel, whether they feel comfortable or whether they feel uncomfortable. And I think a level of discomfort is not always a bad thing in birding. And if we expect to always be comfortable when we're outdoors, I think that's an unrealistic expectation. Of course, we can dress better for the elements, but sometimes it's just not going to happen. And I think that for me, I always feel somehow rewarded when I've put my time in outdoors, however that might be, hawk watching on a pelagic or just, birding. And the conditions are pretty rough. I feel like, wow, I did something today. I feel really productive. You guys feel that way?
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. To your point, Al and Holly, Kristen turned me onto a book that's called The Comfort Crisis by a guy named Michael Easter. And it's the subtitle is Embrace Discomfort to Reclaim Your Wild, Happy, Healthy Self. He's not a birder, but he's very much into outdoors. I've not read the book. It is. I'm doing what Julie Zickafoos told me is called stacking, in which you buy books and stack them beside your bedside without having, I only read like one at a time, so the stack's getting pretty high. But so it's there. But I think it speaks to your point that, I think you guys sort of what you're driving at, Holly, like a day in the field where you've been cold all day. Like I always think of like Christmas bird counts when you come in to like a compilation or something, and then end of the day and your cheeks are like burning, and you're hot inside. You don't care because you've been out all day, in the elements, just present. You've just been present and you've been a witness. You've borne witness, right, to whatever birds you could witness in that area. You try to explain that to somebody that hasn't done it before, or it can be a very difficult thing to try to communicate to somebody. They kind of have to do it to understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got to say, I completely agree with all of this, but I think that this mostly applies to me when I'm cold. I don't get the same reward in the heat. And I feel more
I would agree with that. Yeah.
wanting to avoid that. I love being out in the cold. We've been getting chilly mornings lately, and it's great. And it encourages you to be active. I guess that's a good thing about being in the cold too. Maybe not when you're sitting and hawk watching, but you want to combat that more, and that feels really rewarding.
Totally agree. Yeah. It's like, when you're walking through soup around here, it's 90 degrees, 90% humidity. I'm just like, yeah, I need to be anywhere else. But we always talk about those cold fronts, and that just gets the heart aflutter,
Yeah. Yeah, with mindful birding, the one I've talked to people about this, and one of the talks I do is just sort of an element of the idea of health benefits of birding, that aren't just being outside, but the fact that you have stress responses, right? I mean, and they're very clearly human stress responses that we all have. But one of the classic ways to sort of alleviate that is through, meditation or these other practices that, to me, are so parallel to a lot of aspects of some types of birding, not all, right? Some aspects of birding, if you do, are stressful,
Yeah.
really stressful, right? Like, I mean, a big day is kind of a stressful thing.
Right.
It's not, but to me, watching gulls at the beach, where I just have to sit there and look at every feather in the scope, and I'm usually by myself, and I actually like to be by myself when I'm there, because it's just my time to photograph this thing and whatever. And I'm not trying to find a rare bird. I'm not trying to do it. And often one does, but it's all about just, doing it's birding meditation for me. Like it's more easy for me to relieve stress by going there than actually sitting down every day and doing my 5-10 minutes or whatever of something else that's supposed to, alleviate my stress or what have you. And I mean, has that resonated with a lot of people, Holly, as you've been talking to more and more folks about birding, that it almost says, oh, like, you're sort of, this is a more fun way to actually do A, B, or C, to get me to the point where I'm not stressing.
Yeah, absolutely. As I've been giving these ornithotherapy presentations, there are a lot of people who are having aha moments. People have been birding for decades, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, a light bulb just went off," and like, "Whoa, this is why I do this." Like, and they can relate to that. And yeah, I think for a lot of people, including myself, meditating or practicing mindfulness, it can be tough. It's almost like it brings on more mental clutter. Yet, it's hard to be intentional and sit down. But when we're watching birds, we're drawn into that present moment, and they bring us to that state where we can practice mindfulness in exactly how you're talking, in just this contemplative way, where we're allowing to shift our attention to birds, by being intentional in that practice, by being aware of being in that present moment, aware of our senses, like we were talking, like feeling the wind and on our skin, perhaps listening to the sounds we hear, having that element of childlike wonder that George described, of the curiosity that birds bring us, and just having that opportunity to reflect. And not being judgmental, like not beating ourselves up because we're not doing something else right now. We're not, like you said, at home doing, whatever task we might think we should be doing. Because actually, studies show that time spent in nature, particularly when we shift our attention onto the natural world, whether that be birds as our subject or just having an outdoor experience, is restorative to our minds and will allow us to be more productive and more creative when we come back to whatever it was we were trying to accomplish. And I think that's something important that we overlook as birders. I don't know about for you all, but sometimes birding is my guilty pleasure. Like, I'll say I'm to my family, I'm going off to the grocery store, or a couple days ago, it was, I'm going to the post office. I got to mail a book. And actually, after I mailed the book, I went over to the local park and spent an hour and a half birding. And it's sort of like, that's practicing self-care when we're intentional about it. And we realize that birds are offering us so much more than just the joy we get, but also providing us this opportunity to be in that present moment, when we're intentional in looking towards birds for that opportunity. And so, yeah, everything you're saying resonates with me, Alvaro.
Holly, our friend Todd from Philly here, now up in Mass, he was telling me he's one of the most successful, driven people I know. One of the most intelligent, successful, driven people I know. Has a very demanding job and career that's high pressure. And he was telling me that he was at his doctor. This was a few months ago. He was telling me this, but he'd been to his doctor recently, and his doctor was checking him out. And Todd's a fit guy, he takes care of himself. But the doctor said, "Hey, what do you do for stress? Because whatever you're doing is working." and he was like, "Actually, I spend a lot of time outside looking at birds." And but I thought it was so interesting that the doctor singled that particular thing out. Hey, you've got that part figured out. What is it you're doing? And the answer was birding.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, not only are we all testimony to that, and you can probably think at times in your life where you've been pretty stressed out, but all of a sudden, a spotted towhee flies into your yard and you notice it. And all of a sudden your attention is redirected onto something other than your problem. So that when you go back to think about whatever that might be in going on in your life, you're thinking about it from a different perspective. Your mental channel changes. And there's so many studies right now that are supporting that time spent around birds or in nature do provide us this stress relief. I mean, it's been fantastic to see new studies emerging supporting that birdsong, for example, can be therapeutic in that just listening to birdsong for, 6 minutes a day or something like that can have lasting effects on our anxiety levels for up to 8 hours. And so, in our country, physicians are not prescribing nature yet, or they're not prescribing bird watching yet. But I'm very optimistic that this is on the horizon. And so, for the example you gave of our friend Todd, the more people that share this with their physicians, if birding and being outdoors in nature makes you feel good, helps calm your stress levels or fills you up in some way, share that with your physician, because the more doctors that hear this sort of testimony from people like us, the more of them are going to think about that the next time somebody else walks in their door. And it's not necessarily somebody they're going to put on medication, but perhaps they're looking for ideas on, maybe if you hang out a bird feeder, you might find some joy and distraction that's positive and beneficial for you. The word ornithotherapy, which is the title of the book that I co-authored with Richard and Sophie Crossley, that word ornithotherapy I could first find in print in 1979 in the British Journal of Medicine by a doctor called A.F. Cox in London, and he was a medical director. And he was a birder. And he realized that a lot of his patients were suffering from side effects from some of the medications he was giving them for either mental health issues, or perhaps it was even high blood pressure or some other common ailments. And he wanted to try an experiment, and it was to suggest that some of his patients start to watch birds. And he said that they didn't have to put a lot of focus on identification, but if they wanted to do that, that was kind of fun. But just watch birds and report back. And what he noticed is that bird watching, as he said, was as effective as any drug he could prescribe, but safer and cheaper than many. And so this goes back to what you're saying about what Todd experienced with his physician, and how we all can make a difference in this movement towards helping others find joy, find peace, calm anxiety through birds.
Yeah.
I think it's really a valuable message to talk to people about, in particular to give them some idea of that this is sort of a real thing, that people are studying and it's real. Because I think what happens is that having stress is really obvious. but not having it isn't, right? Like when people who are not stressed, they don't think about stress. And if you are, and if you have anxiety, you obviously you're thinking about it. But to have people sort of communicate that, hey, look, this actually, I don't have much stress and this is what I do is important. I actually have a moderate amount of stress myself, but I know that the birds actually help me manage this. And I've known through, various things that have happened in life that it's been it's been the kind of key to sort of like, okay, everything's normal, safe, and stuff is still happening like it should be when I go watch birds. And that part of it is what's very valuable to me. So I know I can tell people this thing actually works. And it's not just because I'm a bird guide and, in fact, some of my bird tours might not be as good at stress relieving because we're moving around, we're doing this. It's more that birding kind of in your own home area place. That's probably the most, I think, I don't know if you guys agree, the one that regenerates you more than a lot of other types of birding that's more, maybe flitting around all over the place.
Yeah. Well, Holly, I think you made a really good point when you said too that it's important to give yourself grace and time to go out and take time for yourself to go birding or be in nature, and that it's just as important as going to the grocery store or getting something done in your house or for work or whatever, and that it's just important to give yourself permission to let that happen to receive those benefits.
I've called it personal birding at times, which right sounds weird, but like I'm like I schedule it. I'll be like, because sometimes Kristen was like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm going to go do a little bit of birding, and I'm like, no, this is me. I'm flying solo on this one, and she's like, oh, I get it, do your thing. But yeah, I think setting aside that time is key.
It's been on my mind a little bit for fall migration too, and even though there are so many species that you could be looking for to be coming through, and I mean, it's kind of in the back of my mind that like, oh, I haven't seen one of these yet, or that sort of thing. But I just like being out, and I'm fine going to the same patch and seeing less diversity overall to enjoy it more. I think that makes it just as meaningful.
Yeah, you can definitely get into the trap of, and I do at times, of looking at alerts and feeling like you're missing everything, and it's like, because I'm on countless, RBAs, chats, whatever, and I've got them all silenced now. So at the end of the day, I'll look and be like, what was going on here, or if I see something that triggers something interesting, I might go and look. But I think you're right, like you're saying, Molly and Al, also, I think we talked about patch birding and having a place that kind of grounds you, a place that you can go and be like, okay, this is what this place looks like a week later at this season. Wow, in this, this weather, it's totally different. And, today these birds are doing this, wow, the white-throated sparrows are back, or the catbirds are back, or whatever. Oh, there's a merlin perched up there today. I'm going to just hang with him for a while, whatever it is. Having that patch I just feel like that really can ground you and give you, if you can find refuge there, literally, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's a lot of value in appreciating what's outside our own windows and doors. And this was one of the silver linings of the pandemic, is that we weren't bustling around and jetting around the world to see birds. A lot of people became reacquainted with their own neighborhoods in a special way that was really grounding. And like to Al's point about how, the world is still going on, even though our lives were in a bit of a state of crisis, particularly 2020, when everybody was staying at home. It just kind of played on this idea that what's right there waiting for us is always there for us when we need it. And what I love about birds, are that they're equitable in that birds are in every human habitat. You go into urban settings and you're going to find house sparrows and rock pigeons and perhaps Cooper's hawks or peregrine falcons or chimney swifts. And you can go and just connect with those birds in an intimate way. In fact, I think, and I don't know what you think about this, George, but it seems that birds in urban ecosystems seem a little bit more acclimated to people, and you can study them.
Yeah.
And even if it is just a house sparrow or perhaps a starling, there's something to be said for being able to watch those birds, be in that moment with them, and just clear our minds, give ourselves that break. And so that's one of the many reasons I love birds and talk about them being such a vital part of our own well-being and self-care.
And Holly, you have been at the front of this movement since it began, as far as I can tell. You might dispute that, but I think it is. I think it is very close to being true, if not true. It is. I feel like we're seeing countless articles now. It seems like I'm getting forwarded one every week now about the benefits of nature and nature therapy and how good it is for everybody. And it's some of it is like you look back and you think, of course that is. Like I wouldn't have thought of putting it that way, but yes, like I get that.
So would you agree that birds, though, are magical? That okay, we want to be out in nature, but birds have a particular resonance, more so than like if I went out just looking at moths. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's they have eyes, right? So we relate to them.
They can fly.
They
sing.
They can
fly. I do feel like, like moths are cool, but they're so small we can't see what they're doing.
They don't have like eyes. I mean, they have like thousands of eyes, but they don't. There's a thing like you almost don't. They're almost like there's a step away from you relating to a moth.
Right.
But a bird, you're like,
an owl or a robin looks at you, and it looks through you, right? Like you do connect. Yeah.
But do you think there is something to that? Like that really there's something special about birds, Holly, as opposed to other parts of nature?
I do think that people find a spiritual connection, if you will, and a magical connection to birds. And I hear this from people who are not just avid birders, but just people that I meet wherever I go, how birds hold special meaning. And we can see evidence of this just driving around any suburban or urban or even country neighborhood and notice all the bird feeders out there or bird baths, hummingbird feeders especially, and know that people who aren't even dialed into the birding community are finding joy and peace and that magic that you're referring to through birds. And like George says, I don't know if it's the wings, like this idea of a creature that can fly, but certainly they are the soundscape of our lives, the backdrop when we go outside in our auditory processing. And there's something really special. I truly believe, we're animals and we're meant to connect to birds. One of the reasons why listening to birdsong is good for us is it just brings us back to this idea of what's a safe environment. And we know that when birds are singing, they feel safe, meaning they're not going to be singing when there's the Cooper's hawk is nearby, right? They're going to be making a completely different vocalization. And our minds, being animals, are dialed into this. They are we are pre-wired to recognize the sound of other animals, and particularly birds with their song. And this sets our mind at ease because when they're singing, we know there's no threats in the ecosystem. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And this is another reason that plays into this idea of magic of birds and the resonance of maybe a spiritual connection for some people, or just this idea that birds fill us up in a different way, perhaps, than perhaps other organisms that we might find ourselves also looking at out there.
The more I look for other forms of wildlife with more intention these days, the more I realize how accessible birds are. And man, that's just such contrast to other things that I've been looking for. But I've thought about that question that you posed, Alvaro, too, because my therapist asked me that once, like maybe a year ago, if and why I felt like I had a really strong connection to birds, because I think I talk about birding a lot with everybody, including my therapist. And it kind of like, it jarred me because I was like, I don't think it's spiritual. I think I just like it. And I had thought about it a lot after. But I think birds are just such, well, for one, they're interacting on such a deep level with the environment. And it's easy to watch them do that. And I think that's how I've kind of thought about it for myself, is that birds are like the central focal point for me to feel that connection as well. So I find it very grounding. And I guess that's how I think about it. Like, I don't know if I would use the word spiritual for myself or not, but they're like a gateway to feel that connection on a really deep level. Maybe that's spiritualism. Maybe.
You just spoke for me, Molly. I totally like that's exactly how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So birds are cool then.
Yeah, I think they're all right.
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
And magic.
All right.
Say that.
And health giving. And gosh,
Yeah.
I knew it all the time. It took us. It's there is an element of that. I knew all of this all the time, but it's taken me being an older person to realize that I could have known some of this when I was 15 years old, and had it helped me a lot more then through my life than just being, oh, I like birds. And hopefully other people realize, okay, start opening yourself up to the idea that birds are giving you more than just an eBird checklist or sort of that aspect of birding, that there's this whole other aspect that is much more, and maybe even deep, or important. Maybe not important, but I don't want to say what's important for one person or another. But it is crazy that being deeply involved in something, I didn't realize what actually I was involved in until now. It took me this long.
Yeah. Embrace that coolness.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Guys, we should scoot here pretty soon. But Holly, I did want to ask you before we go about your eBird career. Because
career.
Yes. Career. I mean, it is at this point, right? Like, it's like, how long
do we get paid for eBird?
Yeah. Like, how long have you been the statewide reviewer of Pennsylvania? And like, I want to know both parts. I'm going to put you right on the spot here, Holly. What is your favorite part about it, and your least favorite part about being?
Oh boy!
Yeah. Let's do it.
Oh geez. Well, it's been 18 years, George.
That's what I thought. I thought it was getting close. Yeah.
It's been a while. It's been a minute here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I feel very fortunate to have watched this incredible project grow and evolve and meet the needs of the birding community in so many ways. But more importantly, to be able to provide incredible amounts of data for researchers, for community developers, for people all around the globe in making decisions about how we live as humans based on what we know about where birds are. And so that's really been critical, and why I continue with this reviewing job, because you're an eBird reviewer too, George, and it's not always easy.
I would say it's a perfectly thankless job, because if you do everything right, nobody really says anything, and if you do anything wrong, and even when you do things right, you can be crucified. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is most definitely a thankless job. A lot of people don't really understand like some of why we make some of the decisions we do with eBird Review. And so, that's probably the more difficult aspect of being an eBird reviewer is that we have to think about birds, like these checklists that are coming in. A lot of people use eBird today as a way to share information in real time with the alerts that go out and with where a bird might be. But as an eBird reviewer, our role, and we are tasked with making sure that whatever data is submitted will stand up to the test of time so that people 100 years from now who look at an eBird checklist that George Armistead submitted from his backyard there is the birds on it are accurately identified, or he ruled out, species that we see. Yeah.
Ow.
And so, yeah. But this is truly valuable data, and recognizing that and understanding it. It's been something fascinating to watch. I mean, the psychology of eBirding is really intriguing to me with my social science background, it's presented some challenges at times in itself, but those are some of the challenges. The highlights for me is like, I feel when I submit an eBird checklist, and I hope everybody feels this way, we're giving back, we're paying forward. All of us have been hearing all of the decline of birds. We have a sense of eco grief or eco anxiety about the world around us and how we've impacted it. But this is a way to truly make a difference by paying forward what we know about birds. And so for me, that's my favorite part about being an eBirder, but also as a reviewer, just connecting to people and helping birds in that capacity. So yeah, it's really, it has a lot of different facets, and I hope people embrace all that it is. And I have to just give a big shout out to the project leaders of eBird, past and present, and that includes Brian Sullivan and Chris Wood and Marshall Iliff and all the others. I'm not going to name everybody involved, but these are true pioneers in bird research and what we know about birds. And they've done a lot of work through the years. I don't think they ever take days off. Like, I can't figure this out. Like, do they even sleep, these people? Like, I'm trying to figure it out, so yeah, it's just really been a rewarding experience for me. I've learned so much about birds, but also about birding and the community in general.
Well, Holly Merker, I feel like you have lived many, many fascinating lives. I think to your list of careers, and you've had quite a few, you should add in the future perhaps politician, political office. That was a deftly answered question. It was well done. Yeah. Anyway, we should scoot. Al's got his bins up. He's on something else, so we should let him go. Holly, Toey's back. Nice. Holly, thank you so much for doing this. Genuinely thankful for you doing this, and looking forward to seeing you around soon. And thanks everybody for listening. We will be back again soon. Cheers, everybody.
Happy birding, everyone. Thanks, guys. See you.
Bye.